Calling in The One, 7 Weeks to Attract the Love of Your Life by Katherine Woodward Thomas. Picture this. You've got it all together. Successful career? Check. Great friends? Absolutely. You're smart, attractive, the whole package. Yet every night, you're turning the key to an empty apartment, wondering why love keeps slipping through your fingers like sand. Why does every relationship seem to follow the same frustrating script, ending with people who can't commit, won't show up, or simply don't recognize how amazing you are? This was Katherine Woodward Thomas's reality, and here's the kicker. She was a therapist specializing in relationships. By 40, she'd never been married. Talk about irony. She knew every theory in the book, could counsel clients through their deepest issues, but her own love life? A complete disaster zone. She'd joke to friends about men being like buses, trying to laugh off the pain, but underneath, the pattern was excruciating. Her romantic history read like a warning label: married men, commitment phobes, workaholics, even a guy fresh out of prison. And the good ones? They'd somehow vanish before anything real could develop. Maybe you recognize this feeling, that gnawing loneliness that keeps you up at night. That creeping suspicion that maybe you're somehow the problem. Katherine certainly did, haunted by an ex-boyfriend's casual cruelty when he predicted it would be tragic if she never had children. Reading stories about women who'd postponed motherhood, she felt her future crumbling, convinced she'd already missed her chance at the life she wanted. But here's where her story gets interesting. Something fundamental shifted when a friend asked her one deceptively simple question: what are you avoiding by choosing to be alone in life? That question cracked something open, launching a journey that would completely transform her understanding of love. Within 2 years of turning 40 and being perpetually single, she'd met her person, gotten married, and had her first child. So what changed? That's exactly what Calling in The One reveals. Forget dating rules and manipulation tactics. This book offers a 7-week, 49-lesson roadmap for transforming your life from the inside out, dismantling the hidden obstacles that have been blocking love all along. This isn't just about finding someone. It's about becoming the kind of person who can attract and sustain a genuine soulmate, a true spiritual partner. By the time we're done today, you'll understand Katherine's fundamental discoveries about intention, self-love, healing old wounds, and creating a life so vibrant that love naturally gravitates toward you. You'll see that attracting the love of your life isn't about luck or being in the right place at the right time. It's about consciously preparing the internal space for that love to arrive and flourish. Let's dive in. So where does this journey actually begin? Katherine makes something crystal clear from page 1. This isn't about learning clever pickup lines or dating hacks. It's about deep, transformative inner work. She lays out 3 foundational principles that we need to embrace if we're serious about changing our experience of love. First up, life is a creative process. Most of us sleepwalk through life as if our future is already written, as if we're just passively waiting for predetermined events to happen. But Katherine argues this mindset is actively harmful. Every single moment contains infinite creative potential. Your thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, choices, and words are constantly sculpting your reality, including your relationships. Embracing this means surrendering the comfortable victim role. Sure, it's easy to blame childhood wounds, difficult parents, or unavailable partners for your lack of love. And yes, those things may have happened. But clinging to victimhood, however justified it might feel, costs you the very thing you desire most. You cannot change external conditions without first changing your inner beliefs. Second, intention directs your destiny. Your life might seem locked on a certain trajectory, heading toward a predictable outcome. But here's the truth. At any moment, you can change course by setting a powerful, clear intention. This isn't wishful thinking or vague hoping, which usually leads straight to disappointment. Setting an intention is an active commitment, a declaration of what you choose to create, followed by living in alignment with that choice. Katherine demonstrated this dramatically. Right around her 41st birthday, after yet another letdown with an unavailable man, she declared to her friend Naomi, I'm going to be engaged by my birthday. Her birthday was 8 months away. She had zero prospects. But setting that intention became the guiding force that transformed everything that followed. The third premise ties everything together. Your outer world mirrors your inner world, especially in relationships. If you're struggling to find or sustain loving, committed relationships, the first place to investigate isn't out there in the dating pool, it's within yourself. How are you failing to love, nurture, and commit to yourself? When you transform your internal landscape, your beliefs about yourself, your self-talk patterns, your hidden fears, your external world naturally shifts accordingly. Trying to change behavior without addressing the inner source is like painting over rust. The change won't last, but heal the source, and the outer changes become authentic and effortless. These three ideas form the foundation of the entire 7-week journey. It's essentially a call to take radical responsibility for your love life. With these foundations established, the journey begins appropriately with preparing for love. Katherine points out something crucial. Many of us aren't experiencing the love we long for because we haven't yet become people capable of attracting and sustaining that level of love. Our standards for partnership have evolved dramatically. We want soulmates, spiritual partners, people who support our growth and life purpose. But have we evolved internally to meet that high standard? Romantic love today isn't about economic stability or social necessity like it might have been for past generations. It's seen as a frontier for spiritual growth, demanding vulnerability, authenticity, and commitment to another's soul development. This requires expanding our own capacity to love and be loved. And here's the thing. This practice doesn't wait until you find the one. It starts now, today, with the people already in your life. How can you open your heart more fully, right where you are? Katherine shares a simple yoga exercise to physically open the heart center. Imagine sitting, stretching your arms wide with each inhale, feeling your chest expand, silently affirming, I open myself fully to give and receive love. It's a physical practice, embodying a spiritual intention, creating internal spaciousness for love to flow both in and out. But opening ourselves requires more than intention. It requires awareness. Katherine shares a deeply moving story about her friend Laura, who was dying from cancer. In her final days, Laura developed this heightened ability to see love everywhere. She saw it flowing between Katherine and her future husband Mark, whom Laura was meeting for the first time. She saw love in the nurses, gestures, even in the janitor sweeping the hall. She could see the tangible energy connecting everyone. This story highlights how often we, caught up in our busy, materially focused culture, completely overlook constant opportunities for connection. We live with what Einstein called an optical delusion of consciousness, feeling separate when we're inherently interconnected. Our society values net worth over connection, networking over nurturing. We rely on machines and services rather than each other, fostering deep isolation. The Dalai Lama points out how this focus on independence encourages indifference to others' well-being. So the next step is consciously cultivating awareness of this interconnectedness. Start seeing through Laura's eyes. Notice the energy linking you to everyone you encounter. Neighbors, co-workers, strangers. Make eye contact. Offer genuine smiles. Ask someone how they are, and actually listen. It might feel uncomfortable at first, pushing against cultural norms of indifference. But this practice begins dissolving the illusion of separation and builds the foundation for deeper relationships. This leads us to confront our cultural discomfort with needing others. Katherine tells a wonderful story illustrating heaven and hell. In both places, people sit at abundant feasts with utensils too long to feed themselves. In hell they starve, frustrated and alone. In heaven they flourish, because they've learned to use those long utensils to feed each other. This beautifully captures our confusion between unhealthy codependence and healthy interdependence. We've become so terrified of appearing too needy that we often shut down legitimate human needs for connection, care, and support. We pretend complete self-sufficiency, but this denies a fundamental truth. Humans need humans. Love requires surrendering some autonomy, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to rely on others and let them rely on you. Needing someone isn't weakness, it's human. The goal isn't eliminating needs, but taking your own needs seriously, and choosing relationships with people willing and able to meet them lovingly. Katherine encourages identifying what you truly need in a relationship, maybe feeling valued, respected, heard, cherished, or inspired. Then, crucially, practice giving those things to yourself first. If you need to feel valued, start valuing yourself. If you need to hear you're beautiful, acknowledge your own beauty. This isn't narcissism. It's filling your own well, so you're not approaching relationships from desperate emptiness. She even suggests writing yourself a love letter from your ideal lover, saying everything your heart longs to hear, then reading it aloud with deep feeling. This practice reprograms your inner landscape to align with the love you desire. But why are we seeking love? This question brings us to a critical distinction. Are you motivated by love or by fear? Many approach the search for the one from a place of lack, fear of being alone, fear of not being good enough, fear of missing out. Katherine warns that operating from fear sets you up for failure because you tend to manifest what you focus on. If your energy centers on the fear of loneliness, you inadvertently create more loneliness. The alternative is anchoring your quest in love itself. Katherine invites choosing an essence quality, a property of love like courage, trust, joy, peace, abundance, or healing, to be the foundation of your journey. If past betrayals left scars, perhaps courage and healing become your ground. If abandonment haunts you, maybe trust and openness are what you cultivate. Create affirmations around these qualities. My life is abundant and overflowing with love, and consciously take actions demonstrating them. This shifts your energy from fear and desperation to possibility and readiness. You stop trying to escape loneliness and start actively creating a foundation for love. A crucial part of this creation is visioning. It's hard to create something you can't even imagine having. Katherine shares her own past struggle. Her early spiritual dedication involved an austere, almost nun-like vision of her life, devoted to service but devoid of romantic partnership or abundance. A minister friend playfully suggested she needed to, quote, divorce that god of poverty and marry a new one embracing abundance and love. This conceptual shift allowed her to reimagine her life, creating a vision including both service and love, partnership and motherhood. Visioning isn't just wishful thinking, it's mentally and emotionally inhabiting the reality you wish to create. It's less about controlling specifics. He must be 6 feet tall and drive a sports car, and more about connecting with the feeling of love fulfilled. Katherine differentiates between visualization, a mental process often limited by current beliefs, and visioning, a spiritual process connecting to intuition and possibilities beyond current reality. We ask questions like, what does the fulfillment of love look like in my life? And listen for the images, feelings, and symbols that arise. This often requires challenging limiting beliefs, like the idea you must choose between career success and love, or service and family. Katherine encourages creating a vision board or collage, finding images and words representing all aspects of a fulfilled life, where romantic love coexists harmoniously with career, purpose, family, and self-expression. This expands your sense of what's possible. As we cultivate this inner vision, we need to refine our understanding of what we're actually looking for. The idea of a soulmate is incredibly popular. One study showed 94% of young singles want their spouse to be their soulmate first and foremost. But what does that really mean? Thomas More defines a soulmate as someone you feel profoundly connected to, where communication feels like divine grace. Katherine cautions against getting trapped by superficial checklists of desired qualities: attractive, wealthy, specific job. These external attributes often have little to do with deeper soul connection. The love of your life rarely looks exactly like the picture in your head. She shares her own experience. She turned down her future husband Mark twice because he didn't fit her preconceived notion. It took 6 years and a moment of inner guidance. He is not going to look the way you think he should. for her to finally recognize him. Her husband, Mark, is a black man, which challenged subtle and not-so-subtle messages from her upbringing. Our ego often resists our soulmate because they challenge our expectations. True soul connection is less about instant chemistry, which can often be confused with familiarity of old, unhealthy patterns, and more about a shared life path, comfort, ease, and genuine liking. It's characterized by complementing strengths and weaknesses. Finding this requires listening with the heart, not just the mind or hormones. It means practicing being open-hearted and curious with people, rather than immediately judging or assessing them based on external factors. We practice feeling into the connection. Does this person feel warm, safe, kind? Preparing for love isn't just an internal process. It requires making tangible space for love in your life. Katherine shares a story of a man who finally met his fiancée after consciously clearing out closet space and a drawer in his bedroom for her, even before she arrived. Our environment reflects our inner state. If your home is cluttered with remnants of past relationships, symbols of loneliness, or set up exclusively for one person, like a bed pushed against the wall, it sends a message of unavailability. She suggests applying principles similar to Feng Shui: create balance, use pairs of items, 2 nightstands, 2 pillows, artwork depicting union, to symbolize partnership. Make your bedroom a sanctuary for rest and intimacy, removing work clutter or reminders of past hurts. One client couldn't sleep because she stored stressful divorce papers under her bed. Beyond the physical, we need creating space in our schedules. If you fill every moment to avoid loneliness, there's no room for someone new to enter. Tolerating the in-between time, the void between letting go of the old and welcoming the new, is crucial. This leads into the heart of the work, making completions. You can't welcome a fulfilling future while still chained to the past. This requires acknowledging that growth often involves loss. We want love without giving anything up, but every gain in life requires letting go of something else. Committing to love might mean surrendering certain freedoms. Old identities like the fiercely independent single person, fantasies about who you thought you'd end up with, or even relationships that, while comfortable, are blocking something better. Katherine had to consciously end relationships with unavailable men, including the flattering widower and flirting buddies, to become truly ready for her husband. Often, just as we commit to growth, things seem to get worse temporarily, because the old self and old structures need dissolving to make way for the new. The key is trusting the process, understanding that loss is a natural part of life, often clearing the way for some new delight, as the poet Rumi suggests. A major part of releasing the past is forgiveness. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Katherine shares her intense struggle to forgive an ex-boyfriend who she felt had deeply wronged her in a shared project. Her anger felt justified, righteous even. But she knew this bitterness was blocking her path to new love. Through a profound meditative experience, she received the insight that holding on to her need for restitution from him was preventing the universe from bringing greater blessings. In letting go of the debt she felt he owed her, she found compassion and, more importantly, clarity about her own role in creating the situation. She realized she'd given away her power initially due to her own self-doubt. Forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior or necessarily letting someone back into your life. It's about canceling the debt you feel is owed, primarily for your own liberation. It's accepting what happened and taking responsibility for your part, even if your part was simply staying too long or not protecting yourself adequately. Often, the real gifts are the lessons learned. Once Katherine truly forgave and took responsibility, blessings flowed into her life. Meeting her husband, conceiving her daughter, financial abundance. The antidote to resentment is acceptance. This work also involves releasing toxic ties. These are relationships that drain your energy and personal power, often characterized by fear, obligation, or guilt. Susan Forward's FOG, Katherine gives examples. Paul, obsessed with his uninterested business partner Susan, neglecting his own life and health. The insecure client entangled with a man she didn't like simply because he admired her beauty. These ties often mirror our own insecurities or unmet needs. We might tolerate poor treatment because we fear being alone or don't believe we deserve better. Releasing these requires courage and a commitment to your own well-being that outweighs the fear. You can't hold on to relationships that diminish you and expect to create an extraordinary love life. They block the flow. We also need to examine and renegotiate old agreements, both spoken and unspoken, that might be unconsciously shaping our choices. Katherine shares her own story of promising her first love, Frank, that she'd find him when she was in her 60s. A promise made in teenage heartbreak that lingered unconsciously for over 20 years. She had to consciously undo that promise, symbolically in meditation, to free herself for present love. Many agreements are unspoken. Loyalty pacts with family like not surpassing a parent's success or happiness. Agreements made with ourselves in response to trauma, like Nancy, deciding never to trust anyone again after a frightening childhood hospital stay. These agreements act like subconscious intentions, influencing who we attract and what we allow into our lives. Identifying and consciously releasing or updating these agreements is vital. All this leads to confronting our sacred wounds. These are deep hurts, often from childhood, around which we build identities. Elizabeth, molested at age 4, carried the belief, "I'm dirty," for decades, creating relationships that mirrored this brokenness. The healing came not from trying to erase the wound, but by changing her relationship to it. Katherine reframes these deep wounds not just as sources of pain, but as potential sources of strength, compassion, and purpose, our sacred wound. Where we've suffered most is often where we have the most to offer others. But we must stop defining ourselves solely by our woundology, bonding with others through shared victimhood. Instead, we rewrite our story from the perspective of resilience, strength, and the unique gifts born from overcoming adversity. The process continues with deeper healing of core wounds. Early childhood experiences, especially during the first year when trust is formed, profoundly shape our relational patterns. Bob, raised in an abusive alcoholic home, struggled with pervasive anxiety and mistrust, sabotaging his relationships. Samuel, severely abused by his mother, became an eccentric recluse until therapy helped him slowly rebuild trust. While most wounds aren't this severe, almost everyone carries scars impacting their ability to love. These wounds often manifest as difficulties with trust, autonomy, initiative, competence, or identity. The key developmental tasks Erik Erikson identified. A. Solid sense of self, as James Masterson described it, involves emotional range, authentic expression, tolerance for aloneness, healthy entitlement, and self-stability. Core wounds interfere with this solidity. We often unconsciously seek partners who mirror our parents, hoping to finally get the healing we needed in childhood, a setup Harville Hendrix calls the imago. But this rarely works and often repeats the original pain. A crucial part of healing involves identifying the core beliefs formed in response to these early experiences. We're constantly balancing fear of engulfment and fear of abandonment. Decisions made in childhood, often before we could even speak, become deeply ingrained assumptions about ourselves and the world. I'm unlovable. The world is dangerous. I'm unimportant. I'm bad. I'm worthless. I'm inferior. Tammy, facing her grandparents' racism, internalized the belief she was a bad seed. Anne, growing up feeling economically inferior in Beverly Hills, carried that shame into adulthood, projecting inadequacy onto herself and potential partners. Katherine identified her own core beliefs of worthless from her father leaving and inferior compared to her mother as driving her relationship patterns for decades. These beliefs act like magnets, attracting experiences that validate them. Healing requires identifying these beliefs, understanding their childhood origins, and consciously choosing alternative, more empowering interpretations. This leads to the possibility of transforming an identity built around these old wounds and beliefs. Tanya, whose mother demanded perfection, developed an eating disorder rooted in the belief she was a failure. Healing wasn't about simply affirming "I am a success," but about deconstructing the identity of mother's daughter, who had to be perfect. We often build entire personas in reaction to childhood hurts, trying to compensate for perceived flaws, like the doctor driven to earn degrees because her sister called her stupid. But these compensations don't heal the underlying belief. They often reinforce the frantic energy around it. Transformation involves recognizing these identities as constructs, not fundamental truths. It requires challenging the inner bully, the critical voice that echoes old messages, and relating to it with compassion, but not obedience. We stop trying to prove the old beliefs wrong and start living from a different, truer sense of self. This deeper work addresses the hungry heart, the neediness stemming from unmet childhood dependency needs. Falling in love often triggers this deep hunger, making us feel possessive, insecure, or desperate. We try to get from current partners what our parents couldn't give us. But present-day relationships can't truly fill past voids. Until the original wounding is healed, no amount of external love feels like enough. It's like pouring water into a sieve. Angela, whose depressed mother couldn't nurture her, longed for a Prince Charming to fill that void, but attracted a man who felt burdened by her needs, mirroring her mother's dynamic. Healing requires grieving the past losses, accepting they can't be undone, and taking responsibility for reparenting ourselves, actively giving ourselves the attention, support, protection, nurturing, or cherishing that was missing. When we fill our own cup, we stop attracting partners who mirror our deprivation and start attracting those who can meet us as whole adults. Part of becoming whole involves reclaiming the disowned self. We often reject parts of ourselves, both shadow qualities like anger, envy, selfishness, and light qualities like power, beauty, talent, based on childhood messages about what was acceptable. Penny, the actress, rejected by envious peers, learned to diminish her talent and beauty to fit in, carrying that anxiety into adulthood. Zan, angry at her absent father, overdeveloped her male energy for self-protection but felt ashamed of it, hindering her ability to connect with men. Healing involves acknowledging and integrating all parts of ourselves, understanding that our perceived flaws often hold keys to our strength and authenticity. When Penny owned her power, she attracted a powerful partner. When Zan accepted her masculine strength as a gift, her hostility towards men dissolved, opening her to love. True intimacy requires bringing our whole, complex, imperfect selves to the table. After this intensive period of excavation and healing, Katherine includes a release ceremony. Transformation requires not just insight, but actively letting go. We review the beliefs, patterns, resentments, and fears identified over previous weeks, consciously choosing what we're ready to surrender. This often involves a ritual act, like writing down what we release on one side of paper. I release blaming my parents, and what we embrace on the other. I embrace forgiveness, then burning the paper to symbolize transformation. This anchors the inner work with tangible action. With the ground cleared, the focus shifts to actively setting your course. This begins by reinforcing the vision of love fulfilled, connecting not just with the idea, but the feeling of it. This vision acts as a pull, drawing us forward, making the necessary inner changes feel purposeful, rather than just painful. We then solidify this with a clear intention, stating our commitment aloud and aligning our actions with it. This requires faith and letting go of attachment to how or when it will manifest, trusting the process. To clarify who we're looking for, it helps to clarify our own soul's purpose. What are you here to do? What makes you feel alive and of service? True spiritual partnership often involves a shared sense of purpose, supporting each other's destiny. Aligning with your own purpose helps you recognize a partner whose path resonates with yours. Making wise choices on this path requires learning to receive inner guidance or intuition. This involves quieting the mind, asking questions, and listening for subtle answers that come through feelings, hunches, or synchronicities. Katherine suggests practices like writing letters to God or wisdom, and listening for the response that flows through the pen. Cultivating this inner connection helps you discern truth beyond logic and external opinions. Crucially, attracting love requires establishing personal integrity, aligning what you know, what you say, and what you do. Inconsistency creates inner fragmentation and drains your power. Manuel's anxiety and depression lifted only when he started acting on his long-held intention to write his book. Nadia's distress stemmed from lying to herself about her feelings for her casual lover. Integrity involves keeping your word, being honest with yourself, cleaning up messes like apologies owed or communications withheld, and living by your own values. This inner wholeness makes you a stable container for love. Prayer and meditation support this entire process, helping us connect to our center, gain perspective, cultivate peace, and manage difficult emotions. They build the emotional maturity needed for partnership. Finally, navigating the complexities of modern dating requires skill in making wise choices, choosing actions and partners aligned with your values and well-being, even when tempted by familiar but unhealthy patterns. Melissa had to consciously turn down the unavailable woman of her dreams to make space for her true soulmate to arrive shortly after. The journey then moves into embodying the qualities needed to sustain love, summarized as first things first. This starts with making commitments. First to ourselves, our well-being, our growth. Donna, who had never committed, found pride in finally risking commitment, even though the man said no. This breakthrough paved the way for her future engagement. Commitment provides structure and meaning, moving us beyond reactive emotions. It also involves embracing healthy selfishness, prioritizing self-care, setting boundaries, knowing our limits. This isn't about being narcissistic, but about ensuring our own well is full so we can give authentically. The doctor who couldn't say no ended up exhausted, resentful, and attracting draining relationships. Healthy selfishness allows us to maintain a strong sense of self, which is essential for true intimacy and avoiding unhealthy merging. We must also learn the art of receiving. Many of us are better givers than receivers, perhaps fearing vulnerability or feeling unworthy. Sally resisted wearing a feminine outfit because it felt too vulnerable, potentially blocking the very connection she desired. Terry refused her boyfriend's offer to pay for dates during her unemployment, inadvertently blocking his expression of love and care. Receiving graciously allows others the joy of giving and deepens connection. Body acceptance is crucial. So many women, especially, equate self-worth with body size or appearance, engaging in constant self-criticism. This adversarial relationship disconnects us from our physical selves and projects insecurity. Healing involves appreciating our bodies as they are, treating them with kindness and respect, which is a prerequisite for true sensual and emotional intimacy. Sexual healing involves reclaiming our sexual energy from past hurts, shame, or cultural fragmentation, splitting spirit from body. It means forgiving ourselves and others for past mistakes, seeking help for trauma if needed, and making conscious honoring choices about our sexual expression, whether partnered or not. It also involves embracing sensuality in everyday life, through touch, taste, movement, art, connecting with our life force. Developing emotional literacy means learning to identify, accept, and constructively express our feelings, as well as empathize with others. Robert's inability to name his feelings or understand Rachel's created a huge rift. Understanding that all emotions, even difficult ones like anger and fear, have value and information for us is key. Finally, cultivating solitude transforms loneliness into a source of strength. Facing the discomfort of being alone allows us to connect deeply with ourselves, which is the foundation for connecting with another. The last phase is about living a life worth living, a life ready for love. This involves practicing generosity, not as manipulation, but as an overflow of an abundant heart. It means choosing happiness by accepting life as it is, rather than waiting for external circumstances like a partner to make us happy. It requires overthrowing the boogeyman, facing our deepest fears like abandonment or rejection, rather than letting them dictate our choices. It demands being at cause, taking 100% responsibility for our experience in relationships, ditching the blame game. It means living the questions, staying curious and open to growth rather than needing all the answers. And it requires developing skills in listening with an open heart and speaking up authentically and respectfully. Ultimately, the journey culminates in living love fulfilled. This isn't a destination reached only after finding the one. It's a way of being now. It's about living an enchanted life, finding magic in the ordinary. It's about letting love live your life, making choices based on love rather than fear. It's embracing the shift from me to we, understanding interdependence. It involves the ongoing challenge of forgiveness, 70 times 7. It's anchored in giving thanks, cultivating gratitude for all that is. And it requires being a yes to love, taking risks, and staying open. Finally, it means holding the high watch, maintaining faith, and actively living as if your beloved is already on their way, because you have become the person ready to receive them. You've dug the ditches, trusting the rain will come. What Katherine Woodward Thomas offers in Calling In the One is far more than a dating guide. It's a profound manual for self-excavation and transformation. The core message, woven through all 49 lessons, is elegantly simple yet incredibly challenging. The love you seek, out there, is a direct reflection of the love, acceptance, and wholeness you cultivate, in here, within yourself. It turns the traditional search for a partner on its head. Instead of focusing solely on finding the right person, the emphasis shifts entirely to becoming the right person, someone who is truly available, healed, and open to the kind of deep spiritual partnership many of us yearn for. What makes this book resonate so powerfully, I believe, is its unflinching honesty combined with its practical, step-by-step approach. Katherine doesn't shy away from the messy realities of healing, facing core wounds, confronting limiting beliefs, grieving past losses, releasing toxic patterns. But she frames this often difficult work not as punishment or a chore, but as necessary preparation, the sacred tilling of soil before love can bloom. The 7-week structure provides a container, a manageable rhythm, for what can feel like overwhelming inner work. The emphasis on taking 100% responsibility is perhaps one of the most empowering, albeit initially confronting, aspects. Giving up the blame game, blaming parents, exes, society, or perceived personal flaws, and stepping into the role of conscious creator of your own experience, is liberating. It restores agency. If our outer world mirrors our inner world, then changing our inner landscape gives us the power to change our outer reality. So, how can you start applying these principles today, right now? You don't need to tackle all 49 lessons at once. Start small. First, practice presence. Just for today, try listening differently. When someone speaks, put aside your internal commentary, your urge to respond, or your assessment of them. Just listen with openness, as if trying to truly understand their world. Notice how this shifts the connection. Second, identify one limiting belief. Think about your love life. What's one negative belief you hold about yourself or relationships? For example, I'm not good enough. All the good ones are taken. Love is painful. Just notice it without judgment. Acknowledge its presence. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Third, commit to one act of self-love. What's one small thing you can do today purely to nurture yourself, something that fills your own cup? Maybe it's taking 10 minutes to sit quietly, buying yourself flowers, saying no to an obligation that drains you, or simply speaking kindly to yourself in the mirror. These small steps begin the process Katherine outlines, shifting your focus inward, taking responsibility, and cultivating the inner state that naturally attracts love. That was our exploration of Calling In, The One, by Katherine Woodward Thomas. We've journeyed through the core ideas today: the power of intention, the mirror of relationships, the necessity of healing, and the art of becoming truly available for love. But honestly, listening to a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It gives you a glimpse, but it's not the same as taking the trip yourself. The real transformation happens when you engage directly with the lessons, do the exercises, and allow the author's wisdom to work on you personally. If the ideas we discussed sparked something within you, if you felt a flicker of recognition or hope, I genuinely encourage you to pick up the book. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information. It's an experience, a guided process that could truly shift how you approach love and, ultimately, how you live your life. You can find a link to the book in the description below. And if this summary provided value and gave you some food for thought, please consider liking this episode and subscribing to our channel, Billionaire's Bookshelf. We delve into transformative books like this regularly, aiming to extract the most potent wisdom to help us all grow. Join us next time as we unlock the insights from another incredible book. Let's keep learning and becoming better together.